October 8, 1943, over northern Germany. Staff Sergeant Daniel Mercer sits in the top turret of a B-17 flying fortress, oxygen mask tight against his face, gloved fingers resting on twin .50 caliber Browning machine guns. The aircraft's aluminum skin vibrates beneath him, a living thing groaning against the cold at 25,000 feet. Below, the industrial city of Bremen lies hidden beneath a gray lid of cloud. Mercer is 22 years old, from western Pennsylvania. He has flown 6 missions, 6 times over occupied Europe, 6 times watching black flak blossoms claw at the sky. This is Mission 7. The bomber's name is painted under the cockpit window in careful script. Lucky Betty. Frost creeps along the edges of the glass. Inside, the crew barely speaks. Interphone crackles with clipped voices. Flak expected heavy over target. The formation stretches to the horizon. Dozens of B-17s, flying in tight combat boxes. Silver crosses against the cold sky. Above and slightly behind, P-47 escorts weave like distant guardians. But everyone aboard knows the escorts cannot stay forever. Fuel is math. Distance is cruel. Mercer scans the sky, turning the turret slowly. The electric motors hum. His breath fogs inside the mask. He thinks of home only in fragments now, his mother's kitchen. Coal smoke in winter, but those memories feel like someone else's life. A burst of black erupts off the right wing. The first flak battery has found them. The aircraft jolts violently. The concussion slams Mercer against the turret ring. Shrapnel rattles across the fuselage like handfuls of gravel thrown at tin. The bombardier's voice cuts in. Steady. Bomb run in 3 minutes. 3 minutes flying straight and level. No evasive action. Just faith in aluminum and God. Mercer peers down. Through breaks in the clouds. He sees the river and factory's U-boat yards. Intelligence said. Strategic targets. Necessary targets. Another explosion. Closer. The bomber ahead just 50 yards forward takes a direct hit to the wing root. Fire bursts outward in a brilliant orange bloom. For a heartbeat it holds formation, proud and rigid. Then the wing folds. Mercer watches, helpless. As the aircraft rolls and drops away, men inside still alive. No parachutes. Stay tight. The pilot shouts. The formation compresses, aircraft edging closer together for mutual gun coverage. The sky is no longer empty. Dark specks gather on the horizon. Bandits. 12 o'clock high. German fighters. Mercer swings the turret forward. Sunlight flashes against canopies as the first wave dives sleek. Silhouettes of Messerschmitt, Bf-109s cutting down through flak smoke. They come fast. Nose guns blazing. The fortress shudders as tracers rip past. Mercer squeezes his triggers. The twin Brownings thunder, vibration coursing through his arms. Brass casings spill around his boots. A Bf-109 flashes across his sights. He tracks, leads, fires. The drifting bomber fills Mercer's gunsight. Its nose dips slightly, left wing low, sliding sideways through the formation like a wounded animal. Smoke trails from its number 3 engine. The aircraft's name is barely visible through frost and all streaks. It is out of control. Brake right, brake right. Lucky Betty's pilot yells, but they cannot. Bomb run, straight and level. The bombardier has control of the aircraft. Any violent maneuver now could scatter the formation and invite fighters into the gaps. Mercer sees faces in the other cockpit for a split second. A co-pilot leaning forward, eyes wide, hands locked on the yoke. The two fortresses close the last 100 feet in less than a heartbeat. The impact is not a single sound. It is a tearing scream of aluminum. The nose of the other B-17 slices down across Lucky Betty's right wing. Propellers shatter. One engine explodes in a flash of flame and all. Mercer feels the entire aircraft lurch violently upward as if punched by a giant fist. His turret slams sideways. His helmet cracks against the framing. The world spins. Shrapnel and fragments whip past the glass. The other bomber's fuselage scrapes across their wing. Metal grinding on metal, then drops beneath them. For a moment Mercer thinks it will cartwheel away like the first aircraft. But it doesn't. It catches. The lower bomber's left wing is tangled into Lucky Betty's right. Aluminum spars interlocked. Control surfaces torn and flapping uselessly in the wind. 2 bombers have become 1. The interphone explodes with shouting, "We've lost engine 3. Hydraulics gone. Jesus, are we hit bad?" Mercer forces himself upright. His turret rotation is sluggish, grinding against distorted metal. He looks down. Below him, through torn sections of wing, he can see the cockpit of the other aircraft. They are still there, alive. The 2 bombers hang locked together, engines screaming at mismatched power settings. The lower aircraft's nose is angled downward. If it falls, it will rip Lucky Betty with it. Altitude, 24,000 feet. and dropping. Cut power! Cut power! Someone shouts. Negative, we stall. We're dead. German fighters circle, stunned at first. Then they regroup. Mercer sees a Bf-109 lining up from the right flank. The pilot has recognized opportunity. Two crippled bombers tangled together, easy prey. Mercer forces the turret forward. The glass is spider-webbed but intact. He squeezes the triggers. The Brownings hammer again. Tracers streak past the interlocked wings. The German fighter veers off at the last second, overshooting in confusion. The formation is breaking around them now. Other B-17s peel away to avoid collision. Some gunners fire wildly, unsure what they're seeing. Inside Lucky Betty, the pilot fights the yoke with both hands. The aircraft wants to roll right toward the dead weight hanging from them. Feather that prop. Feather it. The engineer yells. The damaged propeller slows, blades turning edge onto the wind. The German fighters come in low this time. Mercer sees them cutting through the haze beneath the tangled wings too. Messerschmitt Bf-109s rising from below, using the sun and the smoke for cover. Smart. Ruthless. Two crippled bombers locked together cannot maneuver. They are a target practice silhouette against the sky. Gunners, hold fire until they commit. The pilot orders. His voice is controlled. Too controlled. Mercer adjusts his turret, fighting resistance in the warped frame. The rotation grinds. Something is bent. If it jams completely, he will lose forward coverage. Altitude, 19,000 feet. The lower bomber shudders violently. One of its engines coughs, flames licking from the exhaust. The vibration transfers straight into Lucky Betty's wing. The entire structure hums like a cracked bell. Mercer looks down again. He can see into the lower cockpit more clearly now. The other pilot, helmet gone, blood across his forehead, is still at the controls. His co-pilot is slumped sideways. They are trying to keep their aircraft level, trying not to drag both bombers into a spin. The first German fighter commits. It climbs steeply and rolls inverted, diving straight toward the exposed belly of the lower B-17. Its nose guns flash. Mercer opens fire. The Brownings hammer in short, disciplined bursts. Tracers arc downward, crossing the path of the diving fighter. The air between them becomes a lattice of fire. The Bf-109 pulls up hard, rounds striking across the lower bomber's fuselage. Pieces shear away. One gun position goes silent. Ball turrets hit. Someone shouts over the interphone. No reply. Mercer swallows. The second fighter presses in from the right, aiming at Lucky Betty's cockpit. The pilot cannot evade, not with another aircraft fused to his wing. Mercer swings right as far as the twisted turret allows. He sees the German pilot's face for a fraction of a second. Goggles, clenched jaw, focused eyes. Mercer squeezes both triggers and holds them. The recoil rattles his teeth. Tracers walk across the fighter's wing route. A thin line of smoke appears. The German aircraft jerks, overshoots, and dives away, trailing dark vapor. Good hits, good hits, the engineer yells. But there is no celebration. Altitude, 17,500 feet. The combined weight is dragging them down faster now. With one dead engine on Lucky Betty and at least one failing below, lift is failing. Bombs, the bombardier says quietly. No one answers. Two bomb loads still hang in the bays of two crippled bombers. If either crew releases independently, the sudden shift in weight could tear the interlocked wings apart. If neither releases, they will carry thousands of pounds of high explosive toward the ground. Mercer watches the farmland below grow sharper, more detailed. Roads, tree lines, farmhouses. The lower bomber jerks suddenly, its left wing dips harder. The pilot's voice cuts through, raw now. They're losing control down there. The roll begins slowly. At first it feels like turbulence, a gentle lean to the right. Then Mercer watches the horizon tilt through the cracked glass of his turret. 10 degrees, 15. The lower bomber's damaged wing is folding inward. Its structural spar likely fractured when they collided. The weight drags downward like an anchor. Opposite rudder, full left. The pilot shouts. Inside Lucky Betty, control cables strain. The yoke is pulled hard left. The remaining engines scream as the engineer pushes power forward, trying to generate lift from brute force alone. Altitude, 15,800 feet. Mercer braces himself against the turret frame. Gravity shifts sideways, then forward. Shell casings slide across the floor like spilled coins. Below him, the other pilot is fighting too. Mercer sees his arms hauling on the controls. Teeth clenched, blood drying along his temple. He is not trying to save only his crew. He knows that if he gives up, both aircraft die. Two strangers, joined by torn aluminum, sharing the same sky and the same fate. Another German fighter climbs into position off their left. Mercer can't reach him. The warped turret limits his arc of fire. He pounds the side of the mechanism with a gloved fist. The rotation motor stutters, then moves another few inches. Enough. He opens fire in a short burst, forcing the fighter to hesitate. The German pilot circles wider now, cautious. They are wounded but still armed. Altitude, 14,200 feet. The roll stops. Barely. The two bombers level out in a grotesque, crook-shaped Lucky Betty flying half-lifted, half-dragged by the dying aircraft beneath her wing. Bombardier, the pilot says, voice steady again. Stand by. Mercer hears the bomb bay doors whine open. Cold air howls through the fuselage. The sudden drag shakes the airframe. On my mark, release. There is no ceremony, just a metallic thunk as thousands of pounds of bombs fall free from Lucky Betty's belly. The aircraft lurches upward, slightly lighter now. A second later, the lower bomber's bomb bay doors open too. Mercer sees the dark shapes dropping away between the interlocked wings. For one horrifying second he expects the shift in weight to tear them apart. The wings groan. Metal shrieks, but they hold. Altitude, 13,000 feet. They are still descending but slower now. The farmland is close enough to see fields divided by hedgerows. A thin ribbon of road cuts through a village below. Church steeple, barn roofs. If they crash here, civilians will die alongside them. The lower bomber shudders again. Its number 2 engine explodes in a burst of flame. All splashes across Lucky Betty's wing. Fire down there. The tail gunner reports. Mercer stares at the spreading flames crawling along the trapped aircraft's nacelle. If that wing burns through, the pilot's voice comes through, tight and urgent. We can't carry him much longer. The unspoken truth hangs in the oxygen-thin air. At some point, they may have to separate. Flames spread along the lower bomber's engine nacelle, licking backward in the slipstream. Mercer smells it even through the oxygen mask, burning all. Scorched aluminum, hot cordite. The two aircraft are still fused, but the fire is beginning to eat at the very joint that holds them together. Altitude, 11,500 feet. Can they feather it? The engineer asks. No response. Comes a faint voice over the emergency frequency, crackling. Distorted. It's the other aircraft. They've switched radios to speak directly. For the first time, Mercer hears the lower pilot clearly. We've lost hydraulics. Left wing's not responding. His voice is calm. Too calm. Inside Lucky Betty, no one answers right away, because everyone understands what that means. The lower aircraft cannot control its role anymore. They are flying on borrowed structure. Another burst of flak explodes. Off their right side, lower altitude. Batteries now tracking them as they drift away from the main formation. Black smoke blooms at eye level. Shrapnel punches through the lower bomber's fuselage, ripping fabric from the control surfaces. Mercer swings his turret and fires at a ground position. He can barely see more to keep busy than from real hope of silencing it. Below, the farmland rises steadily. Altitude, 9,800 feet. The fire intensifies. Flames creep closer to the wing route where the two aircraft are interlocked. If the spar fails under heat, the separation will not be controlled. It will be catastrophic. Listen to me, Lucky Betty's pilot says into the shared frequency. You're going to have to bail out. There is a pause. The lower pilot answers. If we bail, she roll. He means the aircraft. He means both aircraft. Mercer closes his eyes briefly. He knows the math. If the lower crew abandons their controls, gravity will do the rest. But if they stay, they burn. Altitude, 8,600 feet. The tail gunner reports German fighters regrouping in the distance. They're cautious now, circling like wolves waiting for collapse. The lower cockpit canopy slides back. Mercer watches in disbelief as one crewman crawls out, parachute pack strapped tight. He looks up briefly toward Lucky Betty's wing above him. 2 bombers, 2 crews, 1 fate. The man hesitates. If he jumps now, will he tear the balance? Do it, someone screams over the radio. The crewman leaps. For a terrifying second nothing happens, then a white parachute blossoms below the tangled wings, drifting toward the German countryside. The aircraft lurches slightly, but remains level. One by one, more figures emerge from the lower fuselage. Some limp. One pauses to help another toward the hatch. Mercer keeps firing short bursts at distant fighters, trying to keep them back. Altitude, 7,200 feet. 4 parachutes now up the sky, but the lower pilot is still inside. Mercer sees him in the cockpit, hands still on the controls, holding the dying aircraft steady so the rest can escape. Flames crawl closer to the wing route. Altitude, 6,000 feet. The flames are almost at the wing route now. Mercer watches the fire crawl along the lower bombers. Aluminum skin like a living thing, feeding on oil and oxygen. The heat distortion ripples upward, blurring his view. Only one man remains in the lower cockpit, the pilot, through shattered plexiglass. Mercer sees him glance upward toward Lucky Betty. Not in panic, not in accusation, recognition. Two crews bound by torn metal and gravity. Captain, you're out of time. Lucky Betty's co-pilot shouts over the shared frequency. Static answers first, then the lower pilot's voice returns, steady but breathless. Hold her as long as you can. It is not a question. It is a decision. The fire reaches the wing joint. Mercer braces. For a split second, the world seems to pause. Engines scream. Wind roars. Metal groans under impossible stress. Then the lower aircraft's wing spar gives way. The separation is violent. A deafening crack tears through both airframes as the interlocked wings rip apart in a storm of shearing aluminum. Lucky Betty jerks upward, suddenly freed of dead weight. The lower bomber drops away, trailing fire and fragments. Mercer's turret slams hard against its stop. His vision whites out for a heartbeat. When he can see again, the sky has split into two realities. Above, Lucky Betty, climbing slightly, smoke pouring from her crippled engine but still flying. Below, the other B-17 falling nose down, right wing ablaze. Altitude, 5,200 feet. Recover, recover, the pilot shouts. The aircraft pitches violently as asymmetric lift takes over. With the sudden release of weight, the right wing surges upward. The pilot fights the yoke, stomping rudder to counter the roll. Mercer grips the turret frame, hard hammering. Below him, the falling bomber begins a slow spin, and then at the last possible moment the cockpit canopy bursts open. A single figure leaps free. For one terrible second the man tumbles head over heels through smoke and flame. Then white silk blooms. The parachute snaps open just above the treetops. The burning B-17 slams into a field seconds later, erupting in a thunderous explosion that sends a black column of smoke into the autumn sky. The shockwave rocks Lucky Betty even at altitude. Mercer stares down at the rising smoke. The captain made it, but now they are alone. Altitude, 4,800 feet. They are far below the safety of high altitude. German fighters, seeing the separation, are already turning back toward them. Flak guns from nearby positions pivot to track. The lone survivor limping across the sky. Engine 3's dead. Engine 4's overheating, the engineer reports. One wing is shredded. Control surfaces are torn. Hydraulics are partially gone. And they are deep over Nazi Germany. The pilot's voice comes through. Quieter now. Course west. We're going home. Mercer scans the horizon. In the distance, two dark specks grow larger. German fighters, closing fast. Altitude, 4,500 feet. Too low. Far too low for a heavy bomber over enemy territory. Staff Sergeant Daniel Mercer swings his turret toward the approaching shapes. Two fighters, dark crosses clear against pale sky. Not the high-altitude interceptors from before these are hunting low. One is a Focke-Wulf FW-190. The other, slightly behind, a Messerschmitt Bf-109. They've seen the smoke. They've seen the crippled engine. They know this fortress is wounded. Inside Lucky Betty, the pilot trims what control he can. Engine 3 is windmilling uselessly. Engine 4 coughs under strain. Only the left side engines are producing full power. She won't climb, the engineer mutters. We don't need climb, the pilot answers. We need distance. The fighters split. The FW-190 dives low, coming in from 6 o'clock beneath the tail. The Bf-109 angles high right, setting up a crossfire. Mercer cannot see the tail approach clearly. That's the tail gunner's fight. Coming in fast, the tail gunner shouts. The fortress shudders as cannon shells tear past the vertical stabilizer. Fabric and metal peel away. The tail gunner fires back in steady bursts, tracers stitching upward. Mercer tracks the Bf-109 as it rolls into its attack run. He leads slightly, just as he was trained over the fields of Arizona. He squeezes the triggers. The twin 50s roar again. The turret vibrates violently, metal scraping in protest. He ignores it. The Bf-109 flashes across his sights. Tracers walk across its fuselage. A panel flies free. Smoke spills from the engine cowling. The German pilot pulls up hard, banking away. But the FW-190 is closer now to close. Mercer rotates, fighting the jammed mechanism. It resists, stops. He pounds it with his palm. Come on, move. Below, the FW-190 opens fire again. Heavy cannon shells slam into Lucky Betty's right wing. One punches through near the fuel tank. The engineer's voice turns sharp. Fuel leak, right wing. Mercer finally forces the turret another few degrees. Just enough. He fires in a long burst at the FW-190 as it pulls up from beneath the tail. The rounds strike the underside of the fighter. The aircraft jerks violently. A stream of black smoke pours from its engine. For a second it continues climbing. Then it rolls inverted, spiraling downward toward the fields below. Mercer doesn't watch it hit. He swings back to find the Bf-109, but the second fighter is already disengaging, climbing back toward friendly airspace. One crippled bomber is no longer an easy kill. Altitude, 4,200 feet. Silence fills the interphone, except for ragged breathing and the steady drone of 3 surviving engines. The coastline is somewhere west. If they can reach the North Sea, they have a chance, but flak batteries are still firing from scattered positions below. Small bursts rise around them like angry sparks. The pilot's voice breaks the silence. Prepare for possible ditching. Mercer swallows. Cold water, heavy aircraft, limited control. Engine fails without warning. There is a sharp metallic bang, then silence on the right side. The propeller blades spin wildly for a second before the engineer feathers them, turning them edge onto the wind. The vibration lessens, but the damage is done. 2 engines out. Only the left side is pulling now. Altitude, 3,800 feet. The aircraft yaws violently to the right, nose trying to swing toward the dead engines. The pilot stands on the left rudder pedal with everything he has. His shoulders strain against the harness. She won't hold this for long, the co-pilot says quietly. Mercer scans the horizon. There through haze and smoke the gray sheet of the North Sea stretches westward, cold, flat, merciless. Behind them, the German coastline shrinks slowly, not fast enough. Flak bursts continue, but they're scattered now. The gunners on the ground have lost precision at this angle and speed. A few black puffs bloom around them, but none close enough to tear flesh. Inside the turret, Mercer feels the cold more sharply now. With damaged systems, heat circulation has failed. Frost creeps along the interior frame again. Altitude, he asks. 3,000, steady descent, the engineer replies. The pilot makes the decision without drama. We ditch before she stalls. Controlled. Gear up. Flaps partial. No one argues. Mercer looks down at the sea growing larger beneath them. Dark waves roll in long lines. White caps flash in the afternoon light. He has heard the stories. A B-17 flying fortress can break apart on impact if the angle is wrong. Water can flood the fuselage in seconds. Men can drown tangled in wiring and wreckage. Secure guns, the pilot orders. Mercer hesitates. He has lived inside this turret for months. It is steel and glass and survival. Leaving it feels like stepping outside his own skin. He safeties the Brownings, unclips, crawls backward into the fuselage. The interior smells of fuel and sweat. The waist gunners are already bracing themselves near the exits. The engineer double-checks life rafts. The radio operator stuffs maps into his jacket out of reflex. Altitude, 1,800 feet. The sea fills the windows now. The pilot's voice comes calm and even. On my call. The aircraft sinks lower. One wing dips slightly. He corrects. Steady, steady. Mercer grips a metal support beam. He can see the waves rushing toward them through the waist gun window. Brace. The impact is not an explosion. It is a crushing, bone-rattling slam as the belly of the bomber strikes the water. The nose pitches forward violently. Mercer is thrown against the bulkhead. Metal screams. Glass shatters. Cold water bursts through seams instantly. The aircraft skids across the surface for a split second, then begins to settle. Out, 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 someone shouts. Water climbs past Mercer's boots. The fortress that survived flak, fighters, and mid-air collision is now at the mercy of the sea, and the North Sea does not forgive hesitation. The water is ice. It punches the air from Mercer's lungs the second he hits it. The fuselage is already tilting, the tail rising as the nose floods. All spreads across the surface in a rainbow sheen. Debris floats everywhere, insulation, broken plexiglass, a torn map case. Raft, get the raft. The engineer shouts. Mercer kicks free of a trailing strap and swims hard toward the yellow emergency raft inflating beside the wing. The North Sea in October is merciless. The cold bites through leather and wool like teeth. Behind him, Lucky Betty gives a final metallic groan. The aircraft that survived flak over Bremen, a mid-air collision, and fighter attacks begins to slip under. The tail disappears last. For a moment, there is only smoke on the water. Mercer grabs the side of the raft. Hands reach down, waist gunner, radio operator, co-pilot dragging him over the rubber edge. One by one, the crew clambers aboard, soaked and shaking. Count off, the pilot orders. They count. One voice missing. The tail gunner, someone says. Mercer turns. 30 yards away, a figure thrashes weakly in the swell. Without thinking, Mercer slides back into the water. The cold crushes his chest again, but he swims hard, boots dragging, arms numb already. He reaches the tail gunner private, Ellis, whose parachute harness has tangled around one leg. Hold still. Mercer gasps. Ellis' eyes are wide. teeth chattering uncontrollably. Mercer fumbles with frozen fingers, finds the buckle, tears it free. A wave rolls over them both. For a second, the gray sky vanishes beneath water. Mercer drags Ellis toward the raft. The crew leans out, hauling both men aboard. They collapse in a heap, coughing, shaking, alive. The sea heaves around them. Behind, the German coastline is a faint smudge on the horizon, somewhere inland. The crew of the other bomber is drifting down into captivity beneath white parachutes. 2 bombers collided. One burned in a field. One sank into the North Sea. But men from both crews are still breathing. The pilot scans the horizon through salt-streaked goggles. There, he says quietly. Far off, almost invisible, a dark shape cuts across the water. A British air-sea rescue launch, alerted by radio before impact. Moving fast, Mercer leans back against the rubber edge of the raft, exhaustion settling over him like a blanket. He looks at his hands. They are still shaking, not from fear now, but from cold and the sudden release of tension. He thinks of the German pilot he shot down. He thinks of the captain who held his burning aircraft steady so his crew could jump. War reduces men to seconds. Decisions measured in heartbeats. Above them, the sky is quiet again. No flak, no fighters, just wind and waves. As the rescue launch draws closer, Mercer glances once at the empty horizon where 2 fortresses once flew side by side, then fused as one against gravity and fire. They were never meant to survive that collision, but they did. And sometimes, in war, survival is its own kind of victory.